big announcement to save the pubs. They've been in big trouble over the past few years for various reasons. How are you going to try and save them?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are terrible, Ryan. 10 pubs have closed a week on average over the last 14 years of Conservative government. And we want to save the British pub because I know what an important institution they are in so many communities, including here in Southampton. So we've announced a number of things today, but first and foremost is the right to buy for local communities when a pub is looking to close. And so often, communities want to come together, they'll put in a bid, but they haven't got enough time and they don't know what their rights are. So we want to extend that so they've got more chance of being able to keep their local pub for their local community.
Sure. And also things like antisocial behaviour and banking hubs. Talk about the antisocial behaviour. Is that you just want to clean up neighbourhoods so it's better environment for the pubs to operate in?
It is a total nightmare at the moment in so many communities, crime and antisocial behaviour. Just last week I was in a supermarket talking to shoppers there, and antisocial behaviour and shoplifting as two of their biggest concerns. And we know that, particularly in town centres, at weekends, late at night, they're often no-go areas. And so people who once might have liked to go to the pub for an evening with their partner or with their friends now think, you know what, I'd rather not deal with the hassle, and so I'll stay at home. That's really bad for our local pubs. And so cracking down on crime and antisocial behaviour, some people say antisocial behaviour is low level. Well, it's not if you're the victim of it. If you are deterred from going out on your local high street, if you're worried about going for a drink with your friends, going for dinner with your friends of a weekend, that's not low level. That's affecting your everyday life. And so we've made a commitment to have 13,000 additional police officers on the street and a named police officer in every area, because I bet most people wouldn't know who the lead police officer is for their area, who they can hold to account for what's going on, who they can contact if they've got a problem. So those are some of the commitments we've made, but also a reform of the business rate system. Business rate system at the moment is totally stacked against small businesses and high streets and town centres. So we want to reform the business rate system to make it easier for small businesses, for high streets to thrive, and that includes our pubs. And one of the big expenses for pubs and for all of the hospitality sector is what's happened to gas and electricity bills these last couple of years. So the creation of GB Energy, a wholly publicly owned energy company to invest in the cheapest form of energy, British homegrown renewables, that's about getting bills down, not just for families, important as that is, but also for small businesses, including pubs.
And one thing that's been massive for our readers and a big deal for pubs itself is beer duty. We've had a big campaign, Save Our Subs, looking at beer duty to be frozen, the business rates to be scrapped, or to the reef to be extended. What's your take on beer duty? You could be Chancellor in a few weeks' time. The beer duty runs out. The current rates run out in February next year. Are you going to be freezing beer duty?
Well, the Sun has been absolutely right to spearhead this campaign, because I know it's really important to your readers and many others as well. And so that's why I want to back our pub and back the Sun's campaign to back our pubs. On taxes, I'm not going to be able to tell you what would be in my first budget, but judge me on my record. I have always supported cuts and freezes in duties when those have come to Parliament, and I would want to make it as easy as possible for pubs to carry on operating on our high street. I want to end this decline that's seen 10 pubs close every single week under the Conservatives these last 14 years.
Well, you've got the Euros on at the moment, and the beer duty in a lot of European countries is a lot lower than it is in this country. So do you think there just needs to be a sort of big rethink on what we do with beer duty?
Well, I can't make any unfunded commitments because of the state of the public finances that I would inherit if I become Chancellor, but I do want it to be easier for people to enjoy their local pub and to go out and locally, which is why I've made these commitments today around the right to buy, pubs that are closing down, the reform of business rates, the reform of energy bills as well, to make our pubs more competitive. Which is one of the reasons why you've seen so many closures, because of the tax burden falling so heavily on small businesses and on pubs on our high streets.
One other subject I wanted to talk about was Brexit. You sort of did an interview overnight with the Financial Times, and they talk about a reset moment. A lot of our readers voted for Brexit, a lot of the public voted for it, and they want to turn their back on it. What does this reset mean? Does it mean that we're going back to the customs union, single market? What does reset mean?
So my constituents voted to leave, and I totally respect them and the decision that was made 8 years ago now to leave the European Union. That is settled. We're outside of the European Union, outside of the single market, the customs union, and freedom of movement. The Labour government would not bring any of those things back. But do I believe that the deal that we got was the best deal available? I don't. And take one area which actually would have a direct benefit on pubs would be to get a veterinary agreement. At the moment, it is too difficult for the import and export of food and fishing products. And that's really bad for exporters, our great farming industry and fishing sector in the UK. But it's also bad for UK businesses that are trying to import from Europe, especially from smaller businesses. So we want to reduce that bureaucracy, get a veterinary agreement, which means that flow of products is much easier. It will help bring down bills for families and businesses as well, and help our great British farming and food industry be able to export. But Labour's not going to be taking Britain back into the European Union or those key institutions. There's just some changes we want to reduce the bureaucracy, especially for small businesses that want to trade and for families who have seen prices go through the roof these last few years. We want to reduce those trade barriers.
When it comes to some of the chemicals industry that you've talked about, how does it fit with the European Court of Justice? Because they have a lot of say over a lot of these sort of trading rules. Are you concerned that there may be some sort of creep into European Court of Justice and more say over what happens here?
Well, if you look at New Zealand, they're not part of the European Court of Justice, but they have got a farming and fishing agreement, a veterinary agreement with the European Union. So, look, I don't want to take us back into those institutions, but I do want to make it easier for great British businesses to be able to export around the world. I want to see more stuff made here in Britain and then exported around the world. And that does mean we need to make it easier for British businesses to sell, not just to Europe, but beyond as well. We want to get trade deals with other countries around the world, but we do want to make it easier for British businesses to sell to Europe.
Can you see why there may be some concern with the British public? Keir Starmer backed a second referendum. I think you spoke about that, the people's vote in 2018. Do you see why there may be concerns going into an election?
Well, it is really clear in our manifesto. We will not be re-entering the single market, the customs union, or bringing back free movement of labour. We have now left the European Union. I respect that decision, and we're not going to be going back on it.
On growth, you've spoken about how you want to get to growth during during the Parliament. Have you got the parameters for you to actually get to that growth? Is it going to be a slow process? Is it it's not going to happen overnight? So to pay for everything, so you don't have to cut certain Whitehall departments. How quickly can that happen?
Well, I want to crack on. I'm in a hurry. There's lots of stuff that we can do because it is by bringing investment back to Britain that we can make working people better off. And I know that for Sun readers, so many people across our country have really struggled these last few years with the cost of living crisis, not enough money in people's pockets. That's why today we've announced plans to create a national wealth fund to invest alongside business in some of the jobs and industries of the future to bring 650,000 good jobs paying decent wages. These are jobs for electricians, for plumbers, for engineers, good jobs paying a decent wage, particularly in our coastal communities and our former industrial heartlands. That's something that we can get on and deliver. But also, so is building new homes, something we can get on and deliver. Home ownership under the Conservatives has gone backwards. I want more people to be able to own a home of their own, to have that security, a roof over their head that they know is their own, that no one can evict them from. And that's why we have committed to building 1.5 million homes under a Labour government in the first term if we're successful in the election in 3 weeks' time. Again, those are things that we can get on with and start to deliver so that ordinary working people start to feel the benefits of them.
Sure. And on the defence spending, you haven't committed to actually setting out the time frame of when you will get to 2.5%. On growth, is that a predicament on, you have to get that growth before you get say 2.5% will actually happen?
Well, there's nothing more important than our national security and keeping our country safe. Keir is absolutely clear about that. But the Conservatives have made all these promises without being able to say where the money is going to come from. We've just seen it today. where Jeremy Hunt has written to his constituents and has let the cat out of the bag that this welfare savings that the Conservatives say are going to pay for everything in their manifesto, they've actually already been baked into the forecast. So there's not new money. It's a sandcastle. It's built on nothing. The Conservatives have got into this situation where they've promised a load of stuff, but not saying where the money is going to come from. I just won't do that, because the last people that did that were Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, and they crashed the economy, sending people's mortgage rates spiralling. So I want to get to 2.5% of GDP. We've committed to 2.5% of GDP on defence spending, but we need to do a defence spending review, and we've said that we will do that in the first few months of a Labour government, and then set out that pathway to get to the 2.5%. But when I say we're going to do something, you can believe it, because I'll always say where the money's going to come from. I worked as an economist at the Bank of England for many years before I became an MP. I know how important it is that the sums always add up. The Conservatives have thrown away that mantle of being responsible for the public finances. They're not. They've wasted a huge amount of money on dodgy contracts, contracts for their friends and donors, on welfare spending that's got out of control. That is no way to run an economy. I won't run it like that. I will always say where the money's going to come from. I will always make sure our sums add up. So we will set out, once we've done that defence spending review, how and when we'll get to 2.5% of GDP. But I know there's nothing more important than keeping our country safe.
A few quick fire questions. Would you go head-to-head against Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, to debate the economic,
I'm always happy to debate anyone on the economy, and I know that Labour can win that debate. And I'm also looking forward to Keir versus Rishi, the Sun debate.
We're looking forward to that. One thing I wanted to talk to you about as well, you talk about this 100 days, a lot of emphasis would be put on that. Parliament seems to break up every August. What's going to happen there? Is Parliament going to sit through August? Are you going to extend the time that MPs sit to get on with the job?
Well, look, as I said to you, Ryan, we're in a hurry. We've been out of power for 14 years. We know that there's a lot of things that we need to get on with. So we're going to make sure that we use that time well. It'll be up for Keir to sort of decide when we're sitting. But we're not planning on getting in just to go on holiday. We want to get on with the job that, if we're successful, people would have elected us to do.
Cool. And one thing on reform have got their big launch today with their contract or their manifesto with the people. Obviously, reform seems to be taking a lot of support away from the Conservatives. Is there a fear in areas where they're launching the manifesto today, that in Wales or places like that they can actually take more support away from Labour?
Well, we're not taking anything for granted. No one has actually voted in this election yet, so we're fighting for every vote in all parts of the country, England, Wales and Scotland. We don't take anyone's vote for granted, and we'll be setting out, and we are setting out, our positive plans through our manifesto of how we will make this country better for working people.
The final one, just on you possibly moving into number 11. How's your life is going to change completely, your family, all that? How are you going to get used to that, or what are you thinking of as just a few weeks away from that date?
First of all, we haven't won anything yet, so we take every day as it comes. But this is a job that I would love to do. I think I'm well qualified to do it. We've set our plans to make working people better off. I know that with responsibility also comes challenges and sacrifices, but I'm ready for that. I'm excited about what that has to hold, and about the difference that we can make by putting ourselves in the service of working people. All right, cheers. Thanks very much for coming to Southampton.